Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. We've been gone for a little bit. As you guys know, I'm a college basketball coach, so scheduling is pretty tough trying to get some of this content out. But you know how the UP Nation likes to do it. We're going to continue to give you the content. Although it may be sporadic at times, stay patient with us. We're going to continue to pump out the great content and cover the purple, our favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings. Please hit that like and subscribe button to continue to help the station grow and get into that algorithm. Over 19,000 subscribers. Want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings getting off the schneid last week. Got the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up. And I was thinking about the Minnesota Vikings over the past couple of weeks and what a good place we are in. You know, if you would have asked a couple of weeks ago after the Vikings had dropped 2 in a row, there were a lot of people that were ready to jump off a cliff and jump off the bandwagon. But we took care of the Indianapolis Colts last Sunday night, and now we got Jacksonville coming up on Sunday without their golden boy quarterback, from what it sounds like. And so I was thinking about the Minnesota Vikings, and I thought to myself, man, what a great time to be a Minnesota Vikings fan. And I know there are some Viking fans that are diehard Vikings fans, but they are skeptical. But I'm here to let you know and give you something that you can book. And this may be a controversial statement. I know a lot of people won't agree with it. And I know a lot of people are going to see Lionel, man, you're just crazy, man. This is just, right now you're being an irresponsible fan. But I don't care. I don't care about that. I'm telling you right now, the Minnesota Vikings, under the regime of KOC, the Minnesota Vikings, the purple, Skull Nation, they are going to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. Can't you see it? Like, the foundation is set. And I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback from this. I know people are going to put stuff in the comments and talk about, Jones, you're crazy, man. Lionel, you're crazy. You're just being a super fan, man. But I'm telling you, if you look at it under the microscope, under the NFL microscope of what it takes to be a great team, and I will go as far as to say, this team has the possibility of becoming a dynasty. If things are just done right. Right now the foundation is there, but if things are just done right. And I know there's a lot of intangibles, there's a lot of variables that have to fall right, that have to fall into play. But I'm telling you right now, it's there. UP Nation, it's there. Minnesota Viking fans, just hear me out. I'm going to slide over to basketball a little bit. You know, the last dynasty that we had probably was the Golden State Warriors. What was Golden State before Golden State was Golden State? They had Steph Curry, they had Klay Thompson, they had Draymond Green. Those guys were young, but you could kind of see the potential. And then when Steve Kerr came and took the team over from Mark Jackson, you could see the injection of a new energy, and the foundation started to go from being a foundation to developing into something special. If you look at the Minnesota Vikings, the first thing you need is a three-headed monster that's running the team. You've got great coaches on the Minnesota Vikings. Not good coaches, but great coaches. Now, being a great coach, having the label of a great coach, doesn't mean that you can't make mistakes. That's where people get it twisted. Look at Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick arguably will go down, or at least be in the conversation of being the GOAT of NFL coaches. Has he not made mistakes? Has he not had bad games where the play calls maybe just weren't right, or personnel decisions? Of course he has. Of course he has. But that still doesn't taint him being in the conversation of the GOAT. Same thing with KOC. Is KOC perfect? No. Does he always call the greatest games? No. That doesn't mean he can't be the head coach of a championship team. That doesn't mean his coaching staff is not the coaching staff of a championship team. I mean, you can go on down the line. Mike Pettin, former head coach of the Cleveland Browns, defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. I don't even have to talk about B-Flow. You can see his impact on this team in the last 2 years. Keenan McCardell, wide receivers coach. I can go on and on and on and on and on. That's the first ingredient that you need, is a professional coaching staff that the players buy into, that can reach the players. We got that. Next thing you need a good GM, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. And here's where it gets touchy, UP Nation. Here's where it gets touchy with Kwesi. I'm willing to acquiesce that his draft picks have not been the best. They have just not been the best. His first draft was absolutely terrible. But keep in mind, a lot of the scouts that were still in place were Zimmer's guys. And so you had, not making excuses, but don't you have to have your own people? When you start a business, are you going to take over a business and keep around the personnel from the former CEO? No, you're probably going to make some changes in there. So I look at that first draft, although it was poor and not making an excuse, but he really didn't have his personnel in there, and the draft was not very good. And you could even argue that even since then, his drafts have not been very strong. You could argue that, and I would sit and listen to that. But here's where Kwesi is fantastic. He's gotten the books together, and he's put us in a place where we're going to be top 4, top 5 next year in salary cap availability, with the foundation that we already have that you see every Sunday. Are there some holes we have to fill? Absolutely. Absolutely. Interior offensive line, interior defensive line, quarterback, lots of holes. But he's put us in a situation where financially we can get that done next year as we go forward and as we choose. Kwesi did that. Then you look at talking about the draft, then you look at the undrafted free agents that he's brought in over the years. Again, not superstars, but quality players, depth guys. Again, that rounds out our roster. Bringing in guys like LDR this year, who hasn't really seen the field at all. For the most part, he's been on the inactive roster, but you can see the talent there. And let's not even talk about the free agent class that he brought in this year. Arguably, if you wanted to debate it, the best free agent class that the Minnesota Vikings have ever had. And it may not even be close when you look at the impact of the players that he brought in this past summer, integrated them in the team, and look at where we are now. 6-2, with a chance, a very good chance, of going 7-2 on Sunday. That's Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Getting rid of big contracts like Kirk Cousins. If you were to do a tail of the tape, side-by-side comparison, Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold are having similar years. Teams are winning some games. Stats are similar. Sam Darnold hasn't had like a breakout game like Kirk Cousins had when he threw for over 500 yards. But the stats, the tail of the tape, is comparable. Only difference is we're paying $10 million for Sam Darnold on a one-year contract, which allowed us to bring in all those free agents that are making an impact on the Minnesota Vikings right now. See, this is why I think all of this stuff is headed to the Super Bowl. Can't you see it? Can't you see it? Come on, UP Nation. All of this is funneling towards a possible Super Bowl appearance. The Atlanta Falcons right now, they're going to be handcuffed with that contract. And when you have a big contract like that, that person that's taking 20% of your total expense in terms of playing players, they better be a guy that can get you over the hump. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is that guy for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know if Sam Darnold is that guy for the Minnesota Vikings. Again, the big difference is you're paying $10 million. It's not hurting you elsewhere. So you got the coaches, you got the GM, and now you look at the ownership, the Wilfs. Now, these owners have shown you that they're not afraid to let the coaches be the coaches. This ownership is showing you that they're not afraid to spend money. Ever since they've been the owner of the Minnesota Vikings, there's just been an upward trend. Look at the facilities out in Eagan compared to what the Vikings used to have at Winter Park. The Wilfs loves KOC and Kwesi. And those guys are going to get extensions. The Wilfs have their timelines. They're great businessmen. So I'm sure they have their reason for that. But people that are out there worried about whether Kwesi and KOC are going to get a contract extension, they're going to get a contract extension. Relax. It's going to happen. That's that three-headed monster that we're talking about. So you've got salary cap money that's going to help you fill some holes. They stayed pat at the trade deadline. They didn't overspend. They didn't overpay for somebody. They didn't give away too many assets for somebody that they really weren't sure about or didn't think that they could make enough impact to get them to where they were, or the price was too high. Sometimes the best decisions that you make are the decisions that you don't make. So they bring in a guy like Cam Robinson when Christian Darrisaw goes down to fill that left tackle spot. Really didn't give up a whole lot for him. You know, at best, what is going to be a fourth-round pick? My fear was they were going to try to fill this interior defensive line and give away those first-round picks that they have, 2025, 2026, but they didn't do that. Great job, Kwesi. So now you've got to get better in the draft. You've got to hit on those drafts, and you got to do well in free agency next year. And here's the beauty of this. You've got a nice bridge quarterback in Sam Darnold. And for those of you early in the year when he was balling out, we're saying, you know, are we going to bring him back? No. You're not going to bring him back. You're going to help him get a multi-year deal elsewhere because we got our franchise quarterback in JJ McCarthy. Now, JJ McCarthy is the X factor. He's the X factor. But I'm going to say this. Take a deep dive into JJ McCarthy and just watch his demeanor. Watch him on the field. Watch him at the podium during press conferences. And ask yourself, is he a leader of men? See, I say yes. In whatever sport that you've ever coached, in whatever sport that you've ever played, how many of you have won a championship? Not many, because championships are hard to get. And how many of you have not won championships? It could be one of the most elusive things that you've ever tried to accomplish. JJ McCarthy has won championships everywhere he's gone. Now just think about that. At the highest levels, Michigan, a program that was basically forgotten about, dominated by Ohio State for years. Inject JJ McCarthy. All of that ends, and he takes Michigan to the promised land. Then he comes to the Minnesota Vikings, get drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, and everything that he's done since he's been here has been stellar. The only thing that you don't have is a big sample size in terms of him playing on the field. But for all intents and purposes, he was looking great in practice. And then you got a snapshot of him during the preseason. Then he got hurt. You never want anybody to get hurt. But it probably, football-wise, was one of the best things that could have happened to him. Now he gets to sit back and relax. The organization doesn't feel pressured to play him. And he gets to learn the verbiage, watch Sam Darnold execute the things that he execute, and watch his failures on the field for a year with no pressure. That's going to help JJ McCarthy out. And then you look at KOC, who every quarterback that he has had the opportunity to put his fingerprints on, they excel. Look at Sam Darnold this year. Think about what the verbiage was when Sam Darnold was with the San Francisco 49ers in the offseason. Nobody was eager to pick up Sam Darnold. The Minnesota Vikings were. Sam Darnold thought it was a great fit. And he's having his best year ever. Not perfect, but his best year ever with KOC. It's unbelievable, man, when you think about it. It makes me excited when you think about it. Everything is falling in place. And I know that JJ McCarthy doesn't have to come in and be Patrick Mahomes over the next 3 years, but I think it's probably safe to say that he's going to be better or at least equal to what Sam Darnold is. And my bet is he's going to be better. When you have all those things in place, you've got your draft picks, you haven't given up too much in that era, you're probably going to end up trading back to accumulate more draft picks. So again, you have to hit on the draft picks, but then you look at the money and you're not strapped with that Kirk Cousins contract. You didn't overpay for Danielle Hunter. You let him ride, and now you have ultimate flexibility. And because of the culture that's permeating and the reputation that's permeating throughout the league, the Minnesota Vikings and the city of Minneapolis will be a destination for some high-end free agents. You can book it. You can book that. And now when you have that money and you have that flexibility and you have potentially one of the best quarterbacks in last year's draft, along with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, you're probably going to bolster that offensive line as well. Everybody's talking about the Washington Commanders. Boy, the Minnesota Vikings are set up for success. The only thing that stops people from seeing it, the blinders that people put on, are only from skepticism because it's never been done. And I will tell you, there is always a first time. And I have the feeling that this is going to be the Minnesota Vikings' time. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. I'm not even saying it's going to happen next year. But I think it's going to happen within the next 3 years, UP Nation, Skull Nation, Purple Nation. Next 3 years, the Minnesota Vikings have done things perfectly. Now, don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of variables out there. I'm not an idiot. I get it. There's a lot of things that have to fall in place. But I'm so confident that even if a couple of those things don't fall in place, we get close. Now, if we hit on some things, I think the Minnesota Vikings are setting themselves up to be a dynasty. That's a strong statement. I know there are some people out there laughing. Talk to me in the comments. I get it. I will respond. Those of you that have commented to me before, I respond to the comments. I'm not just going to let things fly. That's not what we do here on the UP. But I feel so strongly about this. I've watched teams before in various sports, and you just get that feeling in the pit of your stomach that something special is about to happen. And for something special to happen, you've got to have that foundation. And the Minnesota Vikings have that foundation. Now they just have to be very smart, very tedious and detailed with the flexibility that they have going forward. Boy, it's an exciting time to be a Minnesota Viking fan. People, I tell you, it's an exciting time. I wouldn't blow smoke at you. The Minnesota Vikings on Sunday, they will play a scrappy Jacksonville Jaguar team without their starting quarterback. That's not as easy as it sounds, but the Minnesota Vikings are going to get the dub. You can book that. So we move to 7-2. And I believe staying pat at the trade deadline, other than bringing in Cam, was the right move. Keep those assets, keep that flexibility in free agency, and we're going to do some special things. What do you think, UP Nation? Am I crazy? Am I overblowing this thing? Am I getting too excited? Am I flying off the rails? Talk to me. Talk to me. I'll respond. This is just what I'm feeling in the pit of my stomach. And when I get these feelings, boy, I'm rarely ever wrong about it. If I could go back and replay some of these feelings with other teams that I watched grow into championship teams, man, I was right on about 95% of them. 95%. And I get this same feeling from the Minnesota Vikings. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to continue to pump out that content. Schedule is rough, man. Schedule is rough right now with basketball season in play in college. My team and I were down in Missouri at a tournament this past week. Did some really, really good things there. So we're going to keep finding time to get these podcasts in, talk about our favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings. We aren't going anywhere. But just stay patient with us and the sporadic schedule. But we're going to find a way to continue to get it done. This is Unconventional Playbook. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we're going to make sure to see you when we see you. Go Vikings, Skull. Latrey, take us home, man.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know who I am.
So confused in this life full of mystery. Guess I'm glad it ain't a life